Hey, greetings. Michael Didier here. We're going to try and get through 9 of Numbers, 10, 11, and maybe even 12. Probably not 12, but we'll try. We already did part of 9, so we're a little bit ahead of the game there. I wanted to just briefly talk about what we did last week. We were working with the bronze altar dedication. The Olah altar was being dedicated, and it was being dedicated in the first month of the second year, from the first day to the 12th day, 1 tribe per day. On the 13th day, Moses told Israel to prepare their Passover korban, their offering for the Passover. Yehovah's Passover offering is a good way of saying that. That happened again in the first month. But we've already seen that Israel was numbered back in Numbers 1 in the second month of the second year. Now we're going back to the first month. Next, we went through the Levites being cleansed. We had already talked about the priests being cleansed, but now we're talking about the Levites. Always remember, the priests are Levites. So when we talk about the Levites, they're all of Levi's seed, minus Jochebed, but she's not a seed, she's a daughter. And their sister, it always says. Here's the sons of our Levi's seed and their sister. It says that in Genesis 46. She's not the seed, she's the sister of the seed. This was the purification process. I'm not going to go through that again. What I really want to spend a little bit of time on is what we started last week in Numbers 9. This was the Passover. Here we are, going back again to the first month, second year. Like I said, this chapter started second month, second year. We're going back and forth in time between the first month and the second month. And remember, now we're going to move ahead, even after we do this, to the well, we'll see it in just a second. Let me just talk about this. Here's Israel's seed keeping the Passover on, verse 3, the 14th day of this month at twilight. First month, second year. They kept the Passover. What does it say? According to all its rites and ceremonies, you shall keep it. Where are the rites and ceremonies listed? They're listed in Exodus 12. Next, we went to the second Passover, and that is on the 14th day of the second month. Look at that, 14th day, second month. This was because there were some men who were tamed. They were defiled, it says, and they could not bring their offering at the point of time. Why? Because either they were out of town or they were defiled by a human corpse. Somebody was dead and they had touched somebody who was dead. Maybe it was a family member who died. Who knows? Yehovah told them that they could keep the Passover on the second month. Look at that. Isn't that cool? We get a second chance to become a spiritually born man. Oh, you guys, you've got to understand how important it is to be and participate in Passover. Look what it says. I just have to read. This is the last verse that we did, the last 2 verses. He says, on the 14th, well, 3 verses. On the 14th day of the second month, at twilight, they shall keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs, exactly as the way we did it in the first month. They shall leave none of it until morning, nor break one of its bones. According to the ordinances of Passover, they shall keep it. There it is, this ordinance of the Passover. This is what we were talking about up here. We were talking about according to the ceremony, according to all the rites and ceremonies, we shall keep it. Same ideas. But it says, but the man. They're not talking about ladies. This is an ish. but the Ish is literally what it says. And the leash, you could say it like that. I think but, it works well. Who is clean and not on a journey and ceases to keep the Passover. What does it say? That same soul shall be cut off from among his people. Did you hear that? The man who doesn't keep the Passover gets kicked out from among his people. Well, that's bad enough. But look what it says. Because he did not bring the offering of Yehovah at its appointed time. He says, his own sin shall that man bear. Did you hear that? Something is happening at Passover. What is it? Remember, every man, when he's born, is born a son of Belial. Wickedness, a son of wickedness. Adam was born in the image and in the likeness of Yehovah. But every man after Adam, it says that Seth was born in the image and likeness of Adam, not Yehovah. Fallen man, defiled man. But Passover is the point and the place where the defiled man becomes an Ezra man, a spiritual man, how shall I say, Elohim kind man. Remember, Elohim is spirit. Elohim. The man becomes spirit man, spirit Elohim kind at Passover. Let me show you a verse that I found that is just amazing. It's in Psalms 50. It says, the mighty one, Elohim. That mighty one is El. The Elohim has spoken and called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim will shine forth. Our Elohim shall come and shall not keep silent. A fire shall devour before him. Remember, we had the flood the first time. The second time, it's going to be a fire. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous all around him. We're going to see that his host is Israel. He shall call to the heavens from above and the earth that he may rule his people. How do we become his people? This is what we're talking about today. We're going to see who is his people. The people. The people, it says in chapter 10. Maybe it's 11. Bunch of times. And you tend to think the people is all the ladies, all the servants. No, that's not who we're talking about. He says, he shall call to the heavens from above and to the earth that he may rule his people. He says, gather my, they say, saints. The word there is kasid. Gather my kind. My kind, spiritual kind, together to me, those who have cut covenant with me by slaughter. Cut covenant with me by slaughter. It says made. Made is incorrect. It's a cutting. Cut. Karath. Cut covenant with me by slaughter. Let the heavens declare his righteousness. For Elohim himself is governor. Well, so beautiful. I see this as the time of the year that men, remember it's about the Ger, verse 1248 here, I probably have it here. I don't have it here. Let me see if I have it. 12. I know I've got it close. close by. Here it is. And when a man dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover, dwells with you. Who's he talking to? The Ezra man. Wants to keep the Passover. Let all his males be circumcised. This is the Ger who is coming to become as one born in the land, and Ezra. And when a Ger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover to Yehovah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall become an Ezra, is what it says. They say a native-born native of the land. No, he shall become an Ezra, for no uncircumcised person shall eat it. You know what? I don't see another teacher out there that talks about Ger and Ezra. This is a tragedy. We're talking about the children of Israel, or even the sons of Israel. My voice gets really high when I get upset. We're talking about Ezra men, spiritually born men. I call them Israel's seed. Multi-generations of spiritually born men. This is when it happens. And the man who does it, we read about the man who doesn't do it. Let's go back. But the man who is clean and not on a journey and ceases to keep the Passover. I'll read it on the right. That same soul shall be cut off from among his people because he did not bring the offering of Yehovah at its appointed time. His own sin shall that man bear. So, what does it not say? It says the man who does keep the Passover at the appointed time will remain among Yehovah's people and not bear his sin. You know what? There's lots of sin that we partake in that we don't even know is sin. It's separating us from Yehovah. But this is the time of year that even if we don't know what we've done, we can have that sin forgiven and be in a right relationship with Yehovah. This is a time that we are renewing our covenant with Yehovah. You know, people don't like the idea of slaughtering a lamb or a goat. I say, tough. Get over it. Learn Yehovah's ways. He doesn't change, and his word endures forever. Get it right. It'll change your life. Do you want everlasting life? This is where it's found. We must understand these things. Well, that said, let's move on to where we left off last week. We were just starting verse 14. It says, and if a stranger dwells among you and would keep Yehovah's Passover, he must do according to the rites of the Passover, according to the ceremony, according to its ceremony. And, you shall have one ordinance, both for a ger and an Ezra. It's literally what it's saying. Here it is right here. I'm going to read it again. This is my translation from the Hebrew. And if a stranger, there it is, ger, dwells among you, the Ezra, and would keep Yehovah's Passover, he must do so according to the rite of the Passover, according to its ceremony. You shall have one ordinance. This is kukak. One ordinance both for the ger, for a ger, and for an Ezra man, is what we're talking about. It says an Ezra of the land. For an Ezra of the land. They put for a native-born man of the land. You know, what land is it that we're talking about? Yehovah promised what to Abraham? It was all about the seed and the land, the seed and the land, the seed and the land. Yehovah has been raising up seed, spiritually born seed, from the beginning of time. Most won't. There's a remnant. It's a narrow, narrow road that we're on. More narrow than most think. Especially those who are making it all about this guy called Yeshua or Jesus. Folks, we're learning lies and it's turning us from the way that we're supposed to go. Don't go there. Moving on. No, I'm going to continue on this. This is how a stranger becomes, a ger becomes a native born, an Ezra. The ger has already left the kingdom of his birth and is beginning to learn and do Yehovah's Torah. You know what? Why don't we get this? We don't get it because we don't want to get it. Did Yehovah give any commandments to the Egyptians, the Babylonians? How about the Assyrians? The answer is no. He gave them to Israel, his called out people, after they came out. But we don't want to come out. We think we can stay in the population following their Elohim, their lawmakers and judges, and still be Yehovah's people. I say foolishness. Yehovah said, first commandment after he brought us out of Egypt, thou shalt have no, I am Yehovah who brought you out of the land of bondage. Out of the house of bondage? I forget exactly how it goes. He says, there you shall have no other Elohim beside my face. Before my face. I gotta go to it. You can't not quote this correctly. I've got to get it correct. Here it is. He says, I am Yehovah, thy Elohim, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other Elohim existing before my face. No. Obama, or what's the new guy's name? Trump is not going to be the Elohim of Israel's people. The legislators not going to be the lawmakers and judges of those people. We've learned lies. And becoming Yehovah's people is a life-changing event. Not just some assent of your mind. No, it's far more than that. He says, you shall have the same law for the ger and for one who is from your own land, the Ezra. For I am Yehovah. Oh, there's the 1248 that we talked about. And then 914 is the one we're on right now. All right. This is where we left off last week, I guess. Verse 15. Now on the day that the tabernacle was raised up, what day was that? Do you remember? First month, first day, second year. It says, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of testimony. Look at this. Hardly ever do they use this word, the Mishkan. That's the tabernacle. This is actually a good way of saying, I mean, they write the tabernacle of meetings all the time, but it's always the tent of meetings is what we always see, isn't it? Now on the day of the erecting of the tabernacle, the cloud covered the tabernacle. Both times it says the Mishkan. Then it says, another way of saying it, the tent of Aduth. The tent of the testimony is the Mishkan. They're one and the same. They're synonymous. And in the evening, it was like an appearance of fire over the tabernacle until morning. So we got a cloud by day, and it started apparently that day. I thought the cloud was with us the whole time. Did the cloud only appear with us at certain times? After we came out of Egypt, when did it disappear? The cloud appeared. It's Yehovah's presence over the ark of the testimony, the container of the testimony. Remember, he spoke between the angels. But it says at night, it was a fire. Is this when he came to us? Did we have a fire with us? Could we have had a fire with us for 40 years? I wonder. Let's watch for that. It says, so it was always. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. That's what it says. How long did always last? We don't even know where the Ark of the Covenant is right now, do we? Next it says, when the cloud was taken up from above the tent, not the tabernacle, the tent, after Israel's seed would journey. And in the place where the cloud settled, there Israel's seed would pitch their tents. P-I-T. Pitched their tents. At the command of Yehovah, Israel's seed would journey. And at the command of Yehovah, they would camp. As long as the cloud stayed above the tabernacle, they remained encamped. Reclined, inclined, rested. They want to say pitch their tents. It's the same word when it said encamped. They rested. They inclined. They pitched their tents. So it was when the cloud was above the tabernacle. What do we have here? The tabernacle has to be the tent. There it is. Nope. Oh, this is for this word right here, inclined. It is tent. When the cloud was above the tent, a few days, according to the command of Yehovah, they would remain encamped, inclined. And according to the command of Yehovah, they would journey. So it was when the cloud remained only from evening until morning. When the cloud was taken up in the morning, they would journey, whether by day or by night. Whenever the cloud was taken up, they would journey. I know this sounds a little bit redundant, doesn't it? Whether it was 2 days, a month, a year that the cloud remained above the tabernacle, Israel's seed, remember Israel's seed. Who owns the tents? Who follows whom? Israel's seed follows Yehovah. Everybody under Israel's seed follows them. Whether it was 2 days, a month, a year, that the cloud remained above the tabernacle, Israel's seed would remain encamped and not journey. But when it was taken up, they would journey. At the command of Yehovah, they remained encamped. At the command of Yehovah, they journeyed. I said it's a little bit redundant. They kept the charge of Yehovah at the command of Yehovah by the hand of Moses. How did we know when we were going to set up camp or leave camp and set up camp? That's what the next chapter is about. Order of march. Let's talk about this. First, he's going to tell us about the trumpets and how they're going to be used. And Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, make 2 silver trumpets for yourself. For yourself. You shall make them of hammered work, silver trumpets. You shall use them for calling the congregation and for directing, calling the congregation, calling the assembly. Remember, we're talking about men. Yehovah doesn't give any commandments. Well, actually, it's going to be Moses that's going to do it, isn't it? Yehovah commands Moses. Moses commands everybody else. But he commands men. The men command their women, their servants, their children. And, like I said, calling the assembly and for directing the movement of the camps. When they blow, both of them, there we are, talking about the congregation, assembly. All the assembly shall gather before you at the door of the tent of meeting. This is outside the door of the tent of meeting, obviously, because we don't all fit. But we got 600,000 of us. That's a lot of men. I wonder if it's more the leaders that he's calling. Perhaps not. Look what the next verse says. But all Israel's seed comes when both trumpets are sounded. Now he says, but if they blow only one, then the leaders of the heads of the princes, here, let's look at this. The princes, here, we still don't have it right. Got to have it opened up all the way, otherwise we're not going to be able to tell it. Here's the first word, nasi, the princes. This is ha-nasi, but this is ha-nasiim. It's got the plural on it, nasiim. The princes, the heads of thousands, the head of the princes of thousands of Israel. Oh, boy. What did they say? Get this back as close as I can get it. They said the heads of the divisions, the leaders, then the leaders. This is the princes. The princes, the heads, the princes, the heads of thousands of Israel, the heads of thousands of Israel. You know who I think this is? I think this is the 12 men that we were talking about before. When we numbered Israel, when we brought our dedications to the altars, remember who the men were? They're always the same men. The heads of thousands, the heads of the thousands of Dan, the heads of the thousands of Naphtali, the heads of the thousands of Judah. This is who we're talking about. But if they blow once, the princes, the heads of the thousands of Israel, shall gather to you. Here's the ASV, they said, and if they blow once, the princes of the heads of thousands of Israel. Look, they said it exactly the same way I said it. Yeah, it says thousands. The heads of the thousands. How can we leave out that little bit? Moving on. When you sound the advance. Again, we're talking about how we're going to use these trumpets. Let me show you what these trumpets look like. Here's two men. These don't appear to be priests that are doing it. They aren't wearing priestly garments. But he says the priests are going to do it. The priests. How many priests are there right now? Besides Aaron? 2. That's it. What are their names? Eleazar and Itamar. Okay, divisions. I had another picture here. The march begins when both trumpets sound a certain way. Here's the camp of Israel. Remember we were talking about this last week. Yeah, maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Reuben, Simeon, Gad, Ephraim. I'm saying Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, Dan. Kind of is the head of all these these groupings. East, south, west, north. The Levites, the Merarites, the Kohathites, the Gershonites are camped here. Moses and Aaron are camped here. That's funny because in this point in time, remember this is the second year, we're going to see today that they're going to leave on the 20th day of the second year. Really, during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Well, second Feast of Unleavened Bread. But the Kohathites, there's only 2 of them right now. Not very many guys on that side, is there? All right. When you sound the advance, the camps that lie on the east side, who are they? We just saw it. Judah was the head of them. I don't remember who the other ones are, but they're listed here. They're going to tell us who they are. The camps who are on the east side shall begin their journey. When you sound the advance the second time, the camps that lie on the south side shall begin their journeys. And when the assembly is to be gathered together, you shall blow, but not sound the advance. When the assembly is to be gathered together. This sounds to me like when we're already marching and he wants us to call us together, is that we're going to sound the trumpet, and that's going to be how we're going to come back together. Verse 8 says, Aaron's seed, the priests, shall blow the trumpets. Still talking about the trumpets. We're talking about when they leave, when they meet, when the leaders meet, when we take off, and when we come back together. It says, Aaron's seed, the priests, shall blow the trumpets. Well, it's a good thing Aaron has 2 sons still, because that's all there is. I put all 2 of them have a trumpet. And these shall be to you an ordinance forever, throughout your generations. He continues. When you go to war in the land against the enemy who oppresses you, then you shall sound the alarm with the trumpets. And you shall be remembered before Yehovah, your Elohim. Is it going to be the priests who sound the alarm? That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? And you shall be saved from your enemies. Remember, no ladies go to war. We'll see that later on in Deuteronomy. Also, in the day of your gladness, in your appointed feasts, at the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your Olah and over your slaughtered Shalomim, and they shall be a memorial for you before your Elohim. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. He says this, listen to this. At your appointed feasts, this is the beginning of our feasts. At the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpet over your burnt offerings, over your olah. Appointed feasts, beginning of months. Now, here's a verse in Psalms 81, 3 and 4. It says, blow the shofar. I believe it says shofar, not trumpet there. At the time of the new moon. Then he says, at the full moon on the solemn feast day. He's still talking about the same 2 things. The full moon on the solemn feast day. What days are we talking about? There's 2 of them that began on the new moon, the evening of the 14th. That is the Passover and Sukkot. Both start on the 14th day at evening. Let's go to 11. We're getting ready to leave. We have been at Mount Sinai. Since when? Do I have it on here? I think I do. Yes. He was just talking about whether it be 2 days or a month or a year. Do you know we weren't in Sinai quite a year? I thought we were at Sinai for a year, but it looks to me like it was more like 11 months, maybe 11 and a half months. Let me show you. I put this is the 20th day of the second month. That's what they just wrote. Now it came to pass on the 20th day of the second month in the second year. Always ask yourself, when you see dates, these dates are given to us and they're important. Let's figure out what's going on, what's happening that time of year. Anytime you see a date, we know on the 20th day that we started our second Passover on the 14th day of the second month. It's going to go 17 days from the 14th day to the 21st day at evening. 14th day at evening to the 21st day at evening. This is the 20th day at evening. That's when we're leaving. Now it came to pass on the 20th day of the second month in the second year that the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle of testimony. Isn't that interesting? Here the cloud has been here for so long, and now all of a sudden, oh, it's moving! It's moving! Everybody's getting stirred up. Oh, we gotta go! How cool. The flood started on the 17th day of the second month, 3 days prior to this. I don't know if there's any significance in that, but I think it's interesting. And it came to pass after 7 days, when the waters of the flood were on the earth, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, that on that day the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. But both happened during the day of unleavened bread. Days of unleavened bread in the second month. Where were we going in particular when we left Sinai? Where were we going? It says, then the clouds settled down in the wilderness of Paran. Here, this says, this is not what's going on right now. I think he's saying that to us the second time, not the first time. I'm going to take it out. It appears that we arrived at Sinai on the 15th day of the third month. 15th day of the third month. What day did we leave Egypt? 15th day of the first month, right after Passover, didn't we? Look what it says here in Yasher. And Israel's seed proceeded from Rephidim, and they encamped in the wilderness of Sinai in the third month from their going forth from Egypt. Here it says in Exodus, and in the third month, after Israel's seed had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Hear that? On the same day. It looks to me, as I said, that we arrived at Sinai on the 15th day of the third month. We're leaving on the 20th day of the second month. Like I say, we're just shy a month of a whole year. No, just shy a month of a year at Sinai. You know, you might say, well, who cares, Michael? Well, I care. I want to know how long they were there. Is it going to make a difference someday that we know that? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I want to know. I want to figure those kinds of things out. Sometimes taking the time to figure out when we left, when we arrived, and when we left, it may make a difference. It's a small detail, but it's a detail that we can figure out if we'll invest time in it. I want to learn it. I hope you want to learn it. Now it says, and Israel's seed set out from Mount Sinai on their journeys. Then the clouds settled down in the wilderness of Paran. Wilderness of Paran. Do you know where Paran is? Would you like to see where Paran is? You know I haven't even opened my map today. I'd like to show you where Paran is. 50%. And here we are. Here's the Dead Sea right here. Right here. See that Dead Sea? Wilderness of Paran is down here. Just above Ezen-Geber. Here's El Paran, potentially El Paran. And it's right above the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aqaba. Here's where we crossed from here to here. And down here is Mount Sinai. So we're going from Mount Sinai up to this area right now. Helps to know kind of where we're going. So they started out for the first time according to the command of Yehovah by the hand of Moses, doing exactly what we're supposed to do. It says, the standard of the camp of Judah's seed set out first. These are the people on the east side of the tabernacle. Exactly what we were just talking about. But now we're going to see how the rest of them, remember it said, then it sounds again, the armies of, what is it going to be? Judah. It's going to be, well, here, Reuben, I guess, will be next. So we had Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. But look at who this is. This is Judah set out first according to their armies. Their armies is Zavot. Zavot. Their armies. But look who's at. Over their army was Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. This is the same men again who numbered Israel, who brought the offerings for the Olah offer, for the Olah dedication. And now here these men are yet another time. Seems like there was one other time that we saw last week that we saw these same men. They're all the time. We don't know their names well enough, and so we forget. But these are all the same guy. Remember, we looked up this one last time. Nathaniel, the son of Zuar. Of Issachar's seed. Same men. Then the tabernacle was taken down, and the sons of Gershon and the sons of Merari set out carrying the tabernacle. So look at what we have. We have the first three armies. Then before the next set that are going to happen at the south end, we're going to have these guys go. Gershon and Merari. Remember, Gershon is carrying all the cloth goods, the coverings for the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the door for the Mishkan, and the cloth goods that went all around the curtain, or the curtain that went all around the court of the tabernacle of meetings, the tent of meetings. Then we had the sons of Merari. Remember, these guys all have wagons. The sons of Merari, they have everything else, all the boards, all the heavy metal, the things that the boards sat on. The boards never sat on the ground. They always sat on either silver or bronze. That's what they are carrying. All the pillars, all the boards of the tabernacle, the tent pegs, the ropes. They got a big job. Then it says, the standard of the camp of Reuben. Reuben was the ones who were on the south side, along with Simeon and Gad. Again, each one of those has their heads. Then we had the Kohathites. The Kohathites are going to be in the middle. Remember, they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant and the other set apart things, holy things. They're carrying them by hand, either with a pole, like they carry some of the incidentals. They carry the lampstand. they're carrying the lampstand on basically a board. It's tied to a board. And so they're carrying it on their shoulders. They're also going to carry the gold altar and table of showbread and the Ark of the Covenant with poles. How did they do that? How many Kohathites do we have anyway? Isn't there just Aaron and Eleazar and Ithamar? Do they have sons that are old enough? Could they have sons that are old enough? This is just the second year. They haven't talked about any other priests being set apart to Yehovah yet. How did we do this? Inquiring minds want to know. It says, then the Kohathites set out carrying the holy things. The tabernacle would be prepared for their arrival. Remember, we're moving with 600,000 men. Israel's seed, plus Ger, plus women, plus children, plus servants. Probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 million people. There's a lot of people here. 600,000 is just for the men. Is it possible that when we arrive, Judah's going to get there, defend it with Zebulun and Issachar? Well, the sons of Merari and Gershon set up all the stuff that they're going to need. Well, Reuben, Simeon, and Gad are coming. And then when the Kohathites get there, it sounds like the tabernacle will be prepared for their arrival. They can put the stuff right into the tent. Could they be that efficient? Could it take that long for all of this to happen because of the many people that we have that are going with us? It may. And the standard of the camp of Ephraim set out according with their armies. Remember, these are the guys now, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, who are on the west side of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, the Mishkan, the tent of Moed. And then finally, it says, then the standard of the camp of Dan's seed, the rear guard of all the camps, set out according to their armies. Over their army was Achiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. Over the army of the tribe of Asher. Well, it's Dan, Asher, and Naphtali who are bringing up the rear. Now it says, now Moses said to Hobab, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. Okay, Hobab, remember, Moses' father-in-law has already 2 names, Reuel and Jethro, same man, Moses' father-in-law. This is Hobab, the son of Reuel. I didn't even know Reuel had a son. Did he have a son? Or is this still another name for Moses' father-in-law? I say that because look what it says here in Judges. Now Heber the Kenite, of Hobab's seed, Moses' father-in-law. This says that Hobab is Moses' father-in-law. Well, is he his father-in-law, or is he the son of the father-in-law? No mistakes in Torah. I don't know. It seems like we got some confusion here, don't we? And separated himself from the Kenites and pitched his tent. Well, it's really incidental, the rest of that. I just wanted you to see who this guy is, Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses. This says Hobab, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. Well, I don't know which one he is. I don't remember Jethro, Raul, having any sons. Did he have some sons later on? I suppose he could have. Now Moses said to Hobab, the son of Raul, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are setting out for the place of which Yehovah said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will treat you well, for Yehovah has promised good things to Israel. He's inviting Hobab to join him. That's why I wonder, is it Raul? Seems like Raul was there. And what happened to Zipporah? Zipporah is never mentioned. After Raul, Jethro, brings her to Moses way back in Exodus, right after they got to Sinai. But here's what Hobab says. And he said to him, I will not go, but I will depart to my own land and to my relatives. I had a note here. Moladet. If I'm not indicating birth, family background, kindred must be for relatives. Is what we're talking about. Has a basic sense of origin common with relationship by birth. It refers then to offsprings or descendants. It's kind of the reverse of seed, I suppose. All the people who come before the seed. Usually when we're talking about seed, we're talking about descendants of a specific man or spiritual man. This may be the reverse way of looking at that, according to his kindred. Moladet. This is the root here, led. Lamed Dalet. Here's what ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible says about lead. I mean, that makes sense. Yeled, we're always talking about the Yeled as a young boy. Bear, child, kindred. You can see the origin of that particular word. Here's Moled. No, that's Yeled. Here's Yeled. Here's Moled. The one we're talking about right here. Kindred. Born. They all fit together. It's neat to see how these words fit together. I really like the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible because not only does it give you the root, but you can see how the different roots or how the different letters fit together with that root. Yeled is the boy. Yeledah is the girl. This is, I don't even know how they would say this. What did they say it up here? Moladet. Moladet is the one that we're talking about here. That means kindred. Born. Kindred is probably what we're talking about more so. My kindred. To my own land and to my kindred. So Moses said, please do not leave in as much as you know how we are to camp in the wilderness, and you can be our eyes. What does he mean by that? Is he saying that he needs Hobab to be kind of a guide, perhaps? Why do you need Hobab to be a guide if you're following the pillar of fire? I don't know. So Moses said, please do not leave inasmuch as you know how we are to camp in the wilderness, and you can be our eyes. And it shall be, if you go with us, indeed it shall be, that whatever good Yehovah will do to us, the same we will do to you. Wow, it's quite an honor that he was getting. That's why I wonder, is this yet another name for Jethro, perhaps? Raul? So they departed from the mountain of Yehovah on a journey of 3 days, and the ark of the covenant of Yehovah went before them for the 3 days journey to search out a resting place for them. And the cloud of Yehovah was above them by day, and when they went out from the camp, I guess it means it's leading them in the way that they were going to go. So it was, this is the cloud by day. So it was, whenever the ark set out, that Moses said, "Rise up, O Yehovah, let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before you." It reminds me of a verse in Joel that says, "It shall be as a garden before you, and a desolation after you." Does that fit with this? Rise up, O Yehovah, let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee. And when it rested, he said, "Return, O Yehovah, to the many thousands of Israel." Return to the many thousands of Israel. Next chapter, 11. Now when the people complained, it displeased Yehovah. Could say, and the people complained. They said, "Behold, the people complained." What is it actually saying? Behold. Hayah. Now that makes sense. Hayah, behold. Behold. That's how I wrote it. Behold, the people being talked about are Israel's seed. Darby says, "And it came to pass that when the people murmured, it was evil in the ears of Yehovah. And Yehovah heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of Yehovah burned among them, and consumed some of them in the extremity of the camp." In the extremity of the camp. That reminds me of the man. "All I want is a shack in the back. I just want to go to heaven. I don't care if I just get a shack in the back." You know what? I want all that Yehovah has for me. I want to be 100% Yehovah's man. I don't want a shack in the back. Look at what happened to the guy with the shack in the back. And consumed some on the extremity of the camp. Do you want to be close to Yehovah? Or do you want to be on the extremity of the camp? Does it make sense that the complainers would be on the extremity of the camp? I think it does. Well, I said these people are Israel's seed. I want you to follow that idea as we go through the rest of this chapter. We're going to see I'm right. The people are Israel's seed. Then the people cried out to Moses. And when Moses prayed to Yehovah, the fire was quenched. You know what? I thought at first that this was an overview of what's going to happen with this chapter. But what I saw was that this is something that's happened before. The people complained, and Yehovah's anger burned among them and consumed them on the outskirts of the camp. This is the first time that it happened. We had just left Sinai. And now, already within, is it 3 days? It seemed like we saw 3 days here a second ago. It was a 3-day journey. Maybe it's less than 3 days. The people cried to Moses. And when Moses prayed to Yehovah, the fire was quenched. So he called the name of the place Taberah. Taberah, or Tavarah, with a V. Tavarah. Because the fire of Yehovah had burned among them. This is a new thought. That's over. Now we're going to have another situation where they're complaining. And look what it says. This is now a mixed multitude. This actually says, and the rabble. The rabble. Pesaf, Aspasaf, promiscuous assembly, gathered up together. Here, this is New American Standard Bible Encyclopedia, I believe is what that is. They called it rabble, a collection, a rabble. This is Strong's, I believe. No. This is just a translation of the SV. Now the rabble that was among them had a strong craving. Among them. Who's them? Them is the people. Let's keep the pronouns separated. Now the rabble who were among them yielded to intense cravings. So Israel's seed also wept again. Hear that? Again. This is a separate time. This is not the same time. Did we learn nothing? When will we learn the fear of Yehovah? When will we learn to be grateful for the things that we have? They're going to complain about the food. Yehovah is bringing miraculous provision for Israel every day that gets picked up by them and shared with their families. Ladies don't pick it up. Men pick it up. We saw that in chapter 19 of Exodus. They're weeping again and saying, who will give us meat to eat? We're tired of the manna. I put a song on my Facebook webpage. I hope you took time to listen to that. It's kind of a fun song. Actually, I think I put it here. It says, we remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. I put, they seem to miss the juicy things most. But now our whole being is dried up. There is nothing at all except this manna before our eyes. They're tired of the manna. I'm going to post this for you. Whoops. Maybe I'm not. I don't really want to play this. Oh, we got a bunch more people here. Tochi, you made it. Carrie's here. Sally, Joe, and Bill and Tracy, and Mobile Bill. All right, let me see if I can get that again. I'm going to try it one more time. Edit, copy. And I'm going to try and post it on here. Please don't listen to it right now, but if you'll listen to it later, I think it's a fun song. It's something that we sang on a camping trip when our kids were young, about 100 times. But I like the words. It's kind of gives the attitude of this Israel murmuring, the rabble murmuring. All right. But now our whole being is dried up. There is nothing at all except this manna before our eyes. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its color was like the color of bdellium. I have a picture of this. I think it's almost too small for you to really get a good grasp of what the size of it is. Is that the color of bdellium? I don't know. I want to go here. Bdellium. Again, the people. This is Look at, I had it up here. The people. Most people would assume that the people is all Israel. Well, it is all Israel. But we don't know who all Israel is, do we? We think all Israel is the ladies and the kids and the servants and the ger. But all Israel is the spiritually born men. Get that through your minds. It's going to help you. It's going to give you new light in the scriptures. I'll prove it to you here in just a moment. He says, the people went about and gathered it, ground it on millstones, or beat it in a mortar, cooked it in pans, and made cakes of it. See, this is another thing that confuses us. When Yehovah told Moses to make the silver trumpets, did Moses make the silver trumpets? No, he had people who did that for him, didn't he? Well, this is the same way. We're gathering the manna, and our women and our servants are going to be the ones who are preparing the manna. But it's still the people. And when the dew fell on the camp, oh, did I finish that? The people went out and gathered it, ground it in millstones, or beat it in the mortar, cooked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And its taste was like the taste of pastry prepared with oil. Oh man, I'd be in heaven. I love breads. And when the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell on it. The manna fell on it. It fell at night. The manna fell at night. Didn't fall on the Sabbath. Didn't fall on the night of the Sabbath. Maybe that has something to do with these people who are trying to make the Sabbath just the day. Oh, geez, don't go there. That's foolishness. Yehovah's days go from evening to evening. Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families. Their families. Whose families? The people's families. Everyone at the door of his tent. You know what? When we're talking about their families, we're not talking about the men's families. We're talking about the families of the men. Throughout their families, the people are complaining. Throughout all of Naphtali's families, throughout all of Dan's families, throughout all of Ephraim's families. Everyone at the door of his tent. Men have tents. Israel has tents. And the anger of Yehovah was greatly aroused. Moses was also displeased. See this here? It says, everyone at the door of his tent. It says this, every ish at the door of his tent. Every ish. We're talking about men. Men. Spiritually born men at that. So Moses said to Yehovah, why have you afflicted your servant? Father, this is a disobedient people. I'm sick of it. Why do I have to be leader of these people? He says, and why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Probably says all the people on me. Thy servant. We're talking about a man. Servant. Aved is always a male servant. He goes on. He's frustrated. Did I conceive these people? Did I beget them? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, as a guardian carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to their fathers? Wasn't me, Yehovah. Those were promises that you made. Look at this. Here is first Exodus 4. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Yehovah, my son, my Bakor, my son, my Bakor. We're talking about who? The plural he. Israel. My son, my Bakor is Israel. You could say my son, my Bakor, Israel. So I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. But if thou refuse to let him go, indeed I will kill thy son, thy firstborn. My son, my Bakor is the plural he, the man child. Oh, we get so confused by this. We always want to make it all about Yeshua because we have learned lies. Yehovah's son serves him and has a covenant only with him. He says this, now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice, this is Exodus 19, and keep my covenant. We did it once at Passover, but we need to continue. Then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people. Who's he talking about? The lady people? No, he's talking about the men. Listen to what he says. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests. Yehovah only has male priests. And a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to who? Israel's seed. Spiritually born men, the Ezra, his Kassid, who he did birth. It's the second birth that happens at Passover that brings us back to be Elohim kind, from Belial kind. It's a beautiful picture if you'll get it. Did I conceive all these people? Where am I to get meat to give these people? For they weep all over me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. Moses doesn't know what to do. This does not compute. Why is it that Moses is feeling that he needs to have the responsibility on him to give them meat? Did I conceive these people? Where am I to get meat to give these people? I mean, think about how much meat we're talking about. We're talking 2, 3, 4 million people in all. 600,000 people. And all their families and the Ger who dwell with them, who also have families and servants. For they weep all over me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. I'm not able to bear these people alone because the burden is too heavy for me. Do you hear a man who is tired? Do you hear a man who might be discouraged? If you treat me like this, kill me here and now. If you treat me like this, kill me here and now. If I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wretchedness. Does Moses seeing perhaps that he's got a bad attitude? And do not let me see my wretchedness. Interesting. He'd rather die than take on this responsibility all by himself. Well, I think Yehovah is hearing what Moses is saying and maybe what he's not saying. Listen to this. So Yehovah said to Moses, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people, and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle meeting, that I may stand there with you. Then I will come down and talk with you there. I will take the spirit that is upon you, and I will put it upon them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it yourself alone. Oh, isn't that neat? Then you shall say to the people, consecrate yourselves tomorrow, and you shall eat meat. Consecrate yourself. Who are the people? Again, isn't it so easy to say that these people are male and female, servants and spiritual? Well, we don't even know about spiritual born. We don't get that at all, do we? We talk about children of Israel. We don't get it. Then you shall say to the people, consecrate yourselves tomorrow, and you shall eat meat. You have wept in the hearing of Yehovah, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Oh, now that's low. We liked it better when we were in Egypt. We're under your care right now, but we liked it better when we were in Egypt. eating the leeks and the melons, the onions and the garlic. Therefore, Yehovah will give you meat, and you will eat. You will eat, not 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you, because you have despised Yehovah among you. Let's look at what that says. Rejected. Because you have rejected Yehovah among you. Reject, despise. Where am I? Here it is, despised. Who is among you? Among you. Near you, in the center of you. This is the word they're using for among. They say among you. Who is in your midst? Who is in your center? You rejected the provider. Talk about a rabble. We were destroyed the first time. What do you think is going to happen the second time? Now listen to this. Remember we were talking about the people? The people. Ha'am. Here it is right here. And Moses said, the people who I am among are 600,000 men on foot. These are the people that we're talking about. The people who are numbered of Israel's seed, 20 years old and above. Spiritually born men right after Passover, they were numbered. First day of the second month, right after Passover, which was the 14th day of the first month in the second year. Yet you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat for a whole month. Yeah, I think that, that's I read it the way it says it. But here's the way I think that we're supposed to read it. Yet you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat for a whole month. It's a question. 600,000 men. And you have said, I will give them meat, that they will eat for a whole month. How's that going to happen? Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them? They had some flocks, they had some herds. Did they have enough? Probably not. To provide enough for them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them? Remember, we're talking about a huge amount of people. To provide enough for them? And Yehovah said to Moses, has Jehovah's arm been shortened? Moses, don't you understand? It's by my spirit it's going to happen. Now you shall see whether what I say will happen or not. Does what Yehovah say happen, or will it not? I think his very name is all about, I am Yehovah. What I say I will do. I am Yehovah. I think that's Ezekiel 37:14. That's where I first saw it. His name, he swears by his own name. Why? Because he's going to do it. If he said it, he's going to do it. Moses, did you forget? Now you shall see whether what I say will happen or not. So Moses went out and told the people. There's the people again. That's the one that Moses always talks to. Told the people the words of Yehovah. And he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tabernacle. Then Yehovah came down in a cloud and spoke with him, and took the Spirit. I'm making all these small s's instead of capital S's because I want to get us away from this idea of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost business. We're not talking about a Trinity. We're not talking about a Binitary. We're talking about Yehovah. Yehovah himself is Spirit. Spirit. He's putting, yes, his own Spirit, the same Spirit that Moses has on these 70 elders. And he took the Spirit that was upon Moses and placed the same upon these 70 elders. And it happened when the Spirit rested upon them that they, look what it says. It says they prophesied, although they never did it again. They prophesied and they never did it again? Or never did so again? No. We've got to understand what's going on here. Again, we got to go back to the Hebrew. Look what it says. This is about receiving Moses' spirit. And Yehovah, this is IAA, IAV. IAV, do I know what IAV is? I'm not even sure I have it in here anymore. I don't think I do. I do. Israeli Authorized Version, the King James Version, and the Young's Literal Translation are the three that I'm going to quote from. And Yehovah came down in a cloud and spake unto them, and took of the Spirit that was on him, and gave it to the 70 elders. And it came to pass that, when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. They prophesied and did not cease. Well, what's a big difference from although they never did it again, don't you think? Here's King James. They prophesied and did not cease. And the last one says exactly the same thing, and did not cease. No, they kept doing it. They're being used by Yehovah to give guidance to the people so that Moses doesn't have the burden on him entirely. He goes on. And two men, not two men, and two men. They say but because they already said never did it again. And two men had remained in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other was Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them. They weren't even with them. And the Spirit rested upon them. Now they were among those who were listed, but had not gone out to the tabernacle. Gee, why didn't you go, guys? Yet they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. So Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, one of his choice men, this is Joshua, Moses' assistant, one of his choice men, answered and said, Moses, Adonai. Hear that? Joshua called Moses Adonai. My master, my Lord. The ladies called their men Adonai. Their servants called their master Adonai. I'll bet the Ger who dwell with them called them Adonai. Each Israelite man. Got to understand how it fits together. We're going to see next week that Aaron calls Moses Adonai. But it's Moses who calls Yehovah Adonai. Nobody else. Then Moses said to him, Are you zealous for my sake? Oh, that Yehovah's people, oh, that all Yehovah's people, his people, the Am, were prophets, males. Here. Could this be alluding to future events? Look at this. It says, And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. And also on your men servants and on your maid servants I will pour out my Spirit in those days. He's going to pour out his Spirit even on the ladies, it appears. Even on the lady servants. I'm trying to think what their name is right offhand. I'm coming up short. I know one is Amma. Don't know what the other one is. And Moses returned to the camp, he and the elders of Israel. Reinforcements. Now the wind went out. Now a wind went out from Yehovah, and it brought quail from the sea and left them fluttering near the camp, about a day's journey on this side and about a day's journey on the other side. Can you imagine how many birds that is? They've got a day's journey, it appears, all around the camp where these birds fell. That's a lot of birds. All around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. 2 cubits. That is 36 inches. 36 inches, my goodness. That's a lot of meat. And the people stayed up all that night, all that day, all night, and all the next day, and gathered the quail. He who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. Can you imagine all the gutting that's going on, the smell that must be going on? They must be trying to preserve them to some extent, I would assume. Can't eat them all. Got to make them last a whole month. There must be some preservation going on, when you think. And they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. Yeah, they must have been drying them again, maybe jerking them. But while the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, the wrath of Yehovah was aroused against the people. And Yehovah struck the people with a great plague. So he called the name of the place Kivrat HaTa'avah. Kivrat HaTa'avah, because there they buried the people who had yielded to cravings. From Kivrath HaTa'avah, the people moved to Hazerat and camped at Hazerat. Well, we're going to stop here. I've got 141. And next week, we're going to talk about the incident with Miriam. Oh, very interesting incident that's going to take place next week. And we're going to talk about the 12 spies. And I'm not sure what that one's about, but we'll get to it next week, all right? It's kind of fun. We're now going to be getting into more of the storyline, which I really like. We're kind of getting away from, we're going to get into it again, because we're going to talk, I know in Numbers 30, we're going to talk about vows. So we'll get back to some of that, but it's kind of fun to get some of the storyline back, I think, just to have a reprieve from some of the things that we've been doing. All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining me again this week. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.